Is decline setting in, after the turbulent first century, or has an era of progress and stability arrived? To find out, we sail to China and India, then explore Roman morals. But first, we'll take some time to talk about calendars. The year 100 never really existed because at that time, every region had its own method for counting the months and years, each with different calendars. These were of sacred importance for the timing of ceremonial events, which were often linked to agricultural seasons. But calendars were also essential for astronomy and navigation. Naturally, the cycle of day and night is the first indicator to keep track of the passage of time. This is caused by Earth's rotation, as we know today. The Moon rotates as well, but in sync with its orbit around Earth. In other words, the Moon is tidally locked to Earth, which is why we always see the same side of it. That said, the phases of the Moon form a pattern that's been another basic element of calendars since ancient times. It's also where regularity ends and confusion begins. This is because those lunar cycles are completed in just under 12.5 times a year. Thus, a lunar year of 12 months is about 11 days shorter than a solar year. Most lunar calendars rectify this by adding an extra month every 3 years or so. Unlike lunar calendars, a solar calendar has a fixed date for the beginning of the new year. The Gregorian calendar is the best-known example of this. It was developed in the 16th century, based on the old Julian calendar. Nowadays, this lunar-solar calendar is effectively the global standard. It has one problem though, which is that a year is not exactly 365 days, but almost a quarter of a day longer. To correct for this, a leap year of 366 days is needed, about every 4 years. Many ancient megalithic structures may have served as calendars by precisely determining the start of a new year. Anyone could do this themselves by simply measuring the length of a particular shadow at certain times. The further away from the equator, the more obvious this pattern will become. Observing the night sky and the zodiac, rather than the sun, is another ancient method to define a year. This is known as a sidereal year, and has also been widely used for the creation of calendars. However, a sidereal year is about 20 minutes longer than a solar year. This divergence is caused by Earth's slight wobble in a cycle of approximately 26,000 years, as we saw in the previous episode. A difference of 20 minutes per year amounts to just 1 day every 72 years. In the long run though, this does add up. In India, for instance, several ancient Hindu calendars, known as Panchangam, are still in use today, alongside the official Gregorian calendar. These are all connected to the zodiac signs that astrologers rely on, but since they are based on a sidereal year, the 12 astrological periods have shifted almost a month into the future. But if we go the other way, back in time to around the 4th century, we arrive at the Surya Siddhanta, an old Hindu textbook about the motions of the various celestial bodies. Here we learn more about the threefold nature of time itself.
I teach you the same ancient science that the sun itself once taught. The difference is caused only by time and the revolution of the yugas. Time is the destroyer of worlds and the all-pervading creator. The latter is of 2 kinds: observable or subtle, name-shaped and shapeless. Invisible forms of divine time situated in the zodiac produce the motions of the planets and are called the conjunction, apsis, and nodes. Owing to the greatness of its orb, the sun is drawn away only a very little. The moon, by reason of the smallness of its orb, is attracted much more. Mars and the rest, due to their small size, are drawn away violently by the supernatural beings called conjunction and apsis, causing their motions to deviate greatly. Thus do the planets, attracted by those beings and carried by the wind, move in the heavens.
Both traditional Indian calendars and the Gregorian calendar have a similar 7-day week, likely traceable back to the Sumerians. Their ancient lunisolar calendar was also based on a sidereal year, and for all we know, it goes back to 2700 BC. But we return to the 2nd century. By now, the 200,000 verses of the Mahabharata have largely been written down. The Bhagavad Gita is only a small part of this great epic. It tells about Lord Krishna, acting as charioteer for Arjuna. At some point, Krishna shows his divine nature, and we hear about a similar concept of time as we saw in the Surya Siddhanta.
The Supreme Lord said, "I am time, the mighty world destroyer. I am here to destroy the world. Even without you, all the warriors gathered here for battle will die. Therefore rise and attain honor. Conquer your enemies, and enjoy a prosperous kingdom. They're already slain by me. O greatest of archers, just be my instrument."
At the start of the 2nd century, the Satavahana dynasty had established a dominant position in North India, under the legendary king Gautami Putra Satakani. When his reign took place is not exactly known. What we do know is that he was named after his mother Gautami Balashri. In the fertile region, cities were growing, thanks to a flourishing agricultural economy. This prosperity was multiplied by the vibrant trade routes that reached as far as Rome and China. No surprise then, that the Satavahanas seemed quite welcoming to the enormous diversity of religions and cultures in their empire. Yet the focus may have been more on Hinduism, as the Satavahanas referred to themselves as Brahmins. In the Hindu system of social orders known today as the caste system, the Brahmins constitute the highest of the 4 Varnas. The Kshatriyas form the military and ruling class, but they are supposed to submit to the spiritual authority of the Brahmins. The ever-increasing specialization in crafts and social classes goes together with the ongoing processes of urbanization and state formation. Together with better education and new technologies, this results in increased productivity and prosperity. But social classes come with social injustices. Not just because the lowest social classes hardly benefit from this system, or are excluded altogether, but also because women lose out, as their equal position in society is sacrificed. And then there is the question, whether one's status is determined by birth, or can be obtained through good character and right actions. A question that even Lord Shiva seems to grapple with in the Mahabharata, as he explains to his wife Parvati.
As I understand it, the Kshatriya, Vaisya, and Shudra acquire their status naturally. But to be born a Brahmin, O goddess, is difficult to attain. Having earned a higher Varna, one should take good care of it. For by evil acts one loses his status. If a Kshatriya or Vaisya live according to the Dharma of a Brahmin, they will also attain the status of a Brahmin. But a Brahmin who abandons his duties and acts like a Kshatriya will fall from Brahminhood, and is born into the Kshatriya class. When wisdom gives way to greed and delusion, even those born a Brahmin descend to the status of a Vaisya. Whether a Brahmin descending to the level of a Vaisya, or a Vaisya descending to that of a Shudra, by neglecting his own Dharma and adopting the duties of others, he falls into hell. Cast out from his Varna, such a twice-born sinks into the status of a Shudra. In my opinion, even a Shudra who is pure in his class and excels in good qualities and virtuous actions should be recognized as a twice-born person. Neither birth nor initiation, nor learning nor lineage is the cause of being twice-born. One's conduct is all that matters. Every Brahmin in this world owes it to his conduct, and his status is determined by occupation and character. A Brahmin meditates on scriptures, maintains family life, engages in daily study, and practices charity and self-knowledge. Such a person, unwavering on the path of truth, devoted to sacred knowledge, ultimately attains the Brahmin state.
Most Hindu texts were originally written in Sanskrit, an ancient language that belongs to the large group of Indo-European languages. Contrary to the languages of southern India, which are known as Dravidian languages, and are of a very distinct origin. When it comes to religion though, the contrast is not as sharp, with various forms of Hinduism playing an important role in the south as well. Around 100 AD, southern India had been dominated by three dynasties for centuries: the Cholas, the Chairas, and the Pandyas. There must have been quite a bit of rivalry between the various kings and chiefs, especially when control over the lucrative trade routes and ports was in play. In the 1st century, Roman scholar Pliny the Elder already wrote about trade with India.
The subject is one well worthy of our notice, seeing that in no year does India drain our empire of less than 550 millions of sesterces, giving back her own wares in exchange, which are sold among us at fully 100 times their prime cost. To those who are bound for India, Osalis is the best place for embarkation. If the wind, called Hippolytus, happens to be blowing, it is possible to arrive in 40 days at the nearest market of India, Muziris by name. Another port, and a much more convenient one, is that which lies in the territory of the people called Neosindi, Barais by name. Here King Pandya used to reign, dwelling at a considerable distance from the market in the interior, at a city known as Madurai. The district from which pepper is carried down to Barais in boats hollowed out of a single tree is known as Kutanadu.
We set sail to the east, heading for Han, China. 100 AD would be the 12th year of Emperor He of Han. It should also be a year of the rabbit, according to the Chinese calendar. The Taichu calendar was introduced in 104 BC, based on even older calendars. Once again, the zodiac serves as a useful timepiece. The Han dynasty is enjoying a prosperous time. Science, trade, and economy are thriving, and the population is growing. But in the political system, the first cracks are starting to appear, as Emperor He of Han was only 9 years old when he was crowned in 88 AD. Behind every child emperor, there's a power-hungry widow, one might say. Indeed, the influence of the many widows at the court in Luoyang was growing. Moreover, the eunuchs were increasingly claiming their fair share as well. The conflicts arising from these power struggles are destined to play an important role in the coming decades. But for now, we'll take some time to meet philosopher Wang Chong, who died around 100 AD. Wang provides us with a more rational, critical view of the various myths and superstitions around him in his book titled Lunheng, which means something in the vein of discussions to counterbalance. About the famous mandate from heaven, for instance, he says,
In regard to extraordinary calamities, they say that, when of old a sovereign in his administration departed from the right way, heaven reprimanded him by visiting him with calamities. Those calamities are manifold. Heat and cold are put forward as proof. When a prince punishes at a wrong time, it becomes cold, and when he grants rewards, but not at the right moment, it becomes warm. The spirit of heaven reprimands a sovereign in the same manner, as a sovereign shows his displeasure to his subjects. I say that this seems very doubtful to me. The calamities of a state are like the misfortunes of an individual. If they say that heaven reprimands a sovereign through calamities, does it also punish an individual through his misfortunes? Since the individual is known to us, we may make use of the human body for comparison. A sickness of the body is like a calamity from heaven. When the circulation of the blood is not in order, a man contracts a disease, and when the wind and the air do not agree, the year develops calamities. Provided that heaven blames the administration of a state by calamities, does it blame an individual by his sickness?
In the Roman Empire, The year 100 was actually the year 853 AUC, meaning from the founding of the city. After the assassination of Emperor Domitian in 96 AD, the Flavian dynasty came to an end. For once, the Senate got to appoint a new emperor. This was Nerva, but he died of natural causes in the year 98, and was succeeded by his adoptive son, the great Emperor Trajan. We will be hearing a lot more from him in the next episode. But first we want to take a look at mos maiorum, the morals of the ancestors, so to say. Mos maiorum is a set of unwritten rules and traditional values that have governed Roman society over the centuries. For some, like Domitian, it seemed to have been about no less than saving the nation from moral decay and the inevitable collapse. The first of the several virtues is fides, which stands for trustworthiness and fidelity. In a society where only a small elite can read or write, being able to trust someone's word might be crucial. Next comes pietas, the dutiful devotion to family, Rome's glorious history, and the gods. To honor those, there's religio and cultus, a sense of sanctity and allegiance to the various rituals. Disciplina, simply discipline, cannot be too extreme, as it is of course of huge military importance. Should misfortune strike nonetheless, the virtue of constantia is required to face hardship with evenness, as well as seriousness in the form of gravitas. Such a true Roman man must have a great deal of virtus. As for women, they are expected to possess the counterpart of virtus, which is pudicitia. The latter is about modesty and chastity, but both represent the virtues of a strong and just person, who knows right from wrong. By demonstrating all those virtues over the course of one's life and career, dignitas and auctoritas are earned, respect and authority. At all times, the extended family ties should be well cared for, and the strict hierarchies, within both society and the family, must be maintained. Ultimately though, what matters is the timelessness of friendship. As Cicero puts it,
There are people who give the palm to riches or to good health, or to power and office, many even to sensual pleasures. This last is the ideal of brute beast, and of the others, we may say that they are frail and uncertain, and depend less on our own prudence than on the caprice of fortune. All I can do is to urge on you to regard friendship as the greatest thing in the world, for there is nothing which so fits in with our nature, or is so exactly what we want in prosperity or adversity. In the face of a true friend, a man sees as it were a second self. So that where his friend is, he is. If his friend be rich, he is not poor, though he be weak, his friend's strength is his, and in his friend's life he enjoys a second life after his own is finished. See you in the next decade.